Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this watch review we are looking at one of the watches which has caused quite a stir in recent weeks, and this is the brand new Christopher Ward. This is the C65 excuse me, Trident Mark II Vintage. We also have the Mark II Classic, but that will be discussed in another video review. So it's loosely based on the C65. The Trident is more or less completely different, really. Maybe the same case, but even that has differences. So it's very loosely tied to the C65 family, this watch in particular. Obviously, the main feature you'll notice is the new Christopher Ward logo. Some like it, some hate it. Please leave your comments and discuss with the community your reasons why you feel the way you do, if you like it or hate it. So this watch itself, obviously being vintage, it is dedicated to the 60s and 70s when watches looked a little bit more like this. This will cost you £549 on the leather strap, or £600 on the bracelet. The bracelet being the same as the one I have here, which is the same as the usual Trident bracelet. Obviously that hasn't really changed at all, whereas the leather strap is new, so this is the best way to display it to you. So let's just briefly talk about the specs then. Size wise, I really like the size. I've got a 7¼ inch wrist, and the watch measures 38mm in diameter. Let me just put it on. Okay, so 38mm in diameter. It has a height of 11.5mm and a lug to lug length of 45mm. So for me, I found it really comfortable. It looks great on the wrist as well. I think it's just the right size, and I personally much prefer this size to the Classic, which is 43mm in diameter. So obviously, you know, you've got 5mm difference, half a centimetre. So I really do like the size. Usually I much prefer a larger size watch, but this for me is just right. So that's one of the main things that has made me like this watch more than I thought it would be. The size is perfect. Weight wise, it's 74 grams, so pretty lightweight, but heavy enough to give you a sense of quality. Obviously, design aside, the build quality of Christopher Ward watches has never been in doubt. The build is excellent. Specs are top notch as well, and it just feels really good in the hand and in the metal. Another key feature of this vintage model is the old radium lume, which I really like. As you can see, it's like a different colour to what you'd normally expect. It still glows the same colour, like a greeny blue. See the written review pictures to see what it looks like, but in the flesh it looks like a faded peachy kind of colour, as you'd expect from a vintage watch. So they've mimicked that. The lume itself is actually really strong. I'm glad to say that Christopher Ward have stepped up their quality in the lume, because so many times their lume has been left wanting for the price. But with these new models, it's actually a lot better than it has been. So I'm really pleased to see that. So yes, the old radium lume is certainly a very good point. The movement, as is usually the case, there's two options. Well, it's not really an option, but there's two different movements you get. You don't actually know which movement you have in your watch. It's basically based on the availability of the movement at the time of manufacture. So there's two movements. They're basically exactly the same. The ETA 2824-2, which is obviously very well known as being an exceptional Swiss-made automatic movement, and then it's basically identical twin, sorry, the Sellita SW200. It's exactly the same, apart from the Sellita has one extra jewel. So many people believe the Sellita is a better movement, and in fact Sellita did do a lot of work for ETA. So an ETA you have in your Tag Heuer, for instance, might actually be made by Sellita, and Sellita have newer tooling and machining. So for many, they believe that Sellita is a superior movement, but obviously you get the name of ETA with the ETA. So it swings and roundabouts really. Which one would you prefer? a supposedly higher quality and better made movement, or one with a lot of history and a lot of resale value, if that's the thing that concerns you. The leather strap I really like. It's a new type of leather that they've introduced on this watch. It's called Tibor leather. That's Tibor, and I really like it. It looks really nice. It's very good quality, very comfortable, and it suits the watch down to a T. So I'm really enjoying the leather strap at the moment. It is showing a little bit of wear at the moment already, but these two watches I have been passed around a lot because these aren't production models. These are, the samples that have been, viewed and passed around a lot, as I mentioned. So this is showing a fair bit of wear, but that's most likely because of that. The printing eventually will have Christopher Ward and whatever genuine leather maybe, so that you can ignore the back printing on this. And we have something that I really like to see, the quick release pin. So it's really quick and easy to change your strap. You just push that little button down and there you have it. So that is one key feature that I love to see on Christopher Ward's, that more watch manufacturers should do, really. So there we go. Obviously the buckle as well has changed with the new logo. I do actually quite like it this way. I've never actually seen a Christopher Ward tang buckle before with the old logo, so I can't compare it, but I think the new logo actually suits this style quite well with the left aligned text, and I think it looks quite neat. So all tang buckles from now on will look like this. Okay, so the only things left really to discuss are the dial itself and the case. So let's just briefly talk about the case. One very cool thing, again with the vintage theme, is the sapphire crystal, and they've named it a glass box type sapphire crystal, very based on the old style acrylic crystals, but this one is actually made with sapphire crystal. So again, very vintage feel to it. This section here, the top almost mil and a half of the entire watch is the sapphire crystal. So very nicely made, quite impressive really, the way they've done it. And it looks great as well, especially if you're after that vintage vibe but without acrylic glass, and you'd much prefer the sapphire crystal, which, to be fair, you can't find around too much nowadays, having that style, that acrylic glass style, but in sapphire crystal. So this is a nice little option out there that is quite difficult to find. So I think it looks great. Has a layer of anti-reflective coating on the underside, which is fairly good as well. You can sort of see little like blue flashes every so often. It's also double domed, so we have a very slight dome on top, but then a dome underneath to counteract that dome, so you don't get any distortion, so you can see it perfectly at all angles. So the crystal's really good, nice and thick as well. If you tap it, it gives you a really decent thud. The standard Trident thickness is 4mm sapphire crystal, so it doesn't say on the specs if this is the same, or you never know, it might even be a little bit thicker, so that's really good quality. The case itself then is completely brushed, apart from, if I can get it in focus, apart from a very slight slither of polished at the top and at the bottom as well on either side. As you can see here, the polished area is a little bit larger because of the crown guards. But I really like that. I really like when you see a tiny bit of variation just like that, because when you're wearing the watch or when you're looking at it, it provides that variation, and it gives you a little flash of a reflection as well. So I really do like what they've done with the case here. The case back is very similar to the standard Trident. It's just a little bit reworked. Obviously the fonts has changed. We've got a very slightly different layout, so we have these details deeply engraved surrounding this deep stamped center motif with the Trident. So fairly straightforward, fairly plain, but it does the job done. And because it's screw in as well as the crown, it obviously keeps the water resistance, the 15 atmospheres or 150 meters water resistance at bay. Finally, we have the screw and crown. Excuse me. Now I'm really upset that they've put the watches out without the finished crown. This is unsigned, but they basically they were hoping to get the Swiss and UK flag, as you can see on the front of the Lume magazine and across the website engraved on it. They did have the samples, but they weren't happy with it, so they didn't have the time to turn around the updated and the updated crowns and the ones they were happy with. So I suppose I see where they're going. Rather than ship out the watches with a crown they weren't happy with, they just went unsigned. So this year the crown will be updated, and I wonder if they will offer, when the new crown comes out, I wonder if they'll offer any purchasers of these two watches to send it back and do a swap. Maybe that's something to inquire about if you are concerned. So the final thing is the dial. Very, very simple. Many people have compared it to minimalist watches. I think that's a tiny bit unfair. I think it's a little bit more sophisticated than those, like for instance, Daniel Wellington watches and the like, because they all look very similar, whereas this is a little bit different and it's got, you know, a little bit of uniqueness about it. I really do like the cricket bat style hands. Not a style I've actually really seen before, so I'm quite happy that they've introduced this new style to me. I really do like the look of them as well. Obviously they're lume filled, they're pitched as well, and then we have the applied hour markers. We'll have a look at it in closer detail under the macro lens as well. Then the date window is a matching date wheel to the dial, which is very good to see as well, and something that you'd probably expect on a watch costing this much, but it looks really good in position. And then we have the Trident second hand, which really, you know, tells you that it is a Trident, one of the Trident range. Okay, so the logo, the new logo, can't deny it. Now I'm not going to really touch too much on it because there's been a lot of debate and a lot of discussion about it. My personal opinion is I have grown to like it more, whilst I think that it may not provide quite as much class as a serif font. I do see where they're coming from with the ties between the British and Swiss, and it is a nice font, and I think it does, you know, suit where they're going with the brand. So I'm sure time, you know, as is with a lot of things, time is a great healer. So as time progresses, I'm sure I'll come to appreciate it a little bit more. Okay, so let me just put the macro lens on and we'll have a look at the watch in closer detail. So I'll just give it a quick wipe. So you might as well start off with the logo. There it is printed, pretty straightforward really. And then other printing include this automatic at the bottom. Obviously we have Swiss made at the foot of the dial, and then we have the date window there with a nice, very neat and subtle border around it, which is a nice little attention to detail. The hands, obviously we have the Trident second hand with the Trident counterbalance. That's very nicely made despite the size. And then we have these, like the hands are like a brushed kind of feel to them. Again, I suppose with a vintagey kind of feel, very slightly pitched, but they look really good, and they're very well machined and made as you'd expect. So the applied hour markers are literally just blocks of, you know, very simple blocks, but with lume across the entire top, as you can see. Okay, and then moving on to the case then. So here's the side of the, if I can get a decent, so it's quite hard to see, but that's the side of the sapphire crystal. It does raise, you know, it's raised quite high above the bezel. We have the bezel surrounding it, and then this polished shoulder. All the as you'd expect really. All the machining is very good. If you see any dings or scratches, please ignore them, because this, as I mentioned before, isn't a final production model. Moving on to the crown, so there it is, unsigned, but the grip is pretty good, nice and easy to use. And then moving on to the case back, here's the deep stamp Trident, and this text that's raised is very nicely done, and then we have details deeply engraved surrounding it as well. So finally then, just looking at the strap, here's the top of the strap. You can see it has that vintage kind of look to it. Very comfy on the underside as well. Here's one of the little quick release pins. And then finally, if I just give it a quick wipe, the tang buckle here with the Christopher Ward logo engraved on it. Okay, so I'm going to say that, you know, despite many people not liking the new logo, I think this watch is quite possibly one of the watches that I've most enjoyed wearing from Christopher Ward. I know it might seem quite out there, and many people may not agree with it. Just as a watch itself, it's really nice, and I didn't actually think I'd like it because I don't really dig the vintage vibe, but it's really surprised me. The build quality, the crystal, the size of it, the strap, it all comes together really well. And despite the logo, you know, you may think initially it doesn't quite fit because it's not really a vintagey kind of design, but this logo was around in the 20s or 30s, I think it was, so you know, it is very possible to be seen in a watch in the 60s and 70s. And if you think about it, other watches such as Oris, they use a sans serif font as well, which is a bit more modern, and yet they're highly regarded, and they have smarter watches as well. So it certainly can work for Christopher Ward. I think they've done a great job with this model in particular. My main disappointment is the crown. I am very disappointed that they haven't had the crown signed and finalised, ready to go. But that is just one of those things, and you never know, going forward they may offer to replace it with the finalised signed crown. So this watch in particular with the leather strap is £550. I still think it offers good value for money. It's obviously a very well made Swiss automatic, and it is pretty much on point in the price range. Christopher Ward have always been known for being slightly cheaper. I think they're starting to lose that a little bit, but they are still offering expected value for money. Okay, so this was the C65 Trident Mark II Vintage, and that's what it's all about.